The Indian government has set an ambitious ethanol blending target to blend 20% ethanol with petrol and 5% with diesel by 2030, which has created a huge opportunity in terms to the demand-supply gap for ethanol. Are you planning to set up an ethanol plant in India, or have you extended a project loan to an upcoming ethanol unit? In this video, I'm going to talk about the statutory approvals needed for setting up an ethanol plant in India. Hi, my name is Yash Shah and I'm a part of the leadership team at SJA, a 40 years old project monitoring organization on panel with large public sector banks and financial institutions as an industry expert for 17 industries including ethanol. After successfully monitoring the implementation of almost 20 ethanol plants across the country in the last 3 years, ranging from 250 KLPD right up till 2000 KLPD for the largest institutions in the country, we have structured this video as a 1-point guide to the statutory approvals needed for setting up an ethanol plant in India. This video is focused primarily on ethanol for fuel blending. So let's get started. Statutory approvals can be divided into two categories. Part A is pre-establishment and Part B is post-establishment. We'll discuss both of these one by one. Pre-establishment. Number 1. Change of land use under the State Revenue Code. If the plot of land which has been acquired for setting up the factory is a non-industrial land, an application along with the applicable fee needs to be made to the prescribed authority under the State Revenue Code for getting the land use changed to industrial. Since land revenue is a state subject, each state typically has a State Revenue Code which contains the law as well as the procedure by way of rules to be followed for getting this change of land use, also known as CLU. For example, in Uttar Pradesh, the UP Revenue Code 2006 is the primary statute under which this application is to be made, and the prescribed authority is the subdivisional officer. Number 2. Factory plan approval under the Factories Act, read with the factory rules. As per the Central Factories Act, read with the state rules, every factory needs to apply to a prescribed authority for a factory license. For example, as per the Chhattisgarh factory rules, originally the Madhya Pradesh factory rules extended to the state of Chhattisgarh, Form 1A along with the building plans in triplicate and other prescribed documents are to be submitted to the Chief Inspector of Factories or the Deputy Director Industrial Safety prior to construction. There is a deemed approval of the plan in 90 days if no objections are received. Number 3. Consent to establish from the State Pollution Control Board. Prior to starting construction, a consent to establish is to be obtained under the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution and the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Acts. This is a critical approval and also defines the permissible capacity in KLPD for your ethanol plant and in megawatt for your captive power plant, if any. Number 4. Registration for interest subvention under the extant industrial policy. Under the scheme for financial assistance for new ethanol production capacities, the central government allows a subvention or a relief of 6% per annum on loans taken for ethanol capacity establishment. This registration for the subsidy is to be taken from the DFPD, that is the Department of Food and Public Distribution. Number 5. PESO initial approval. This approval is to be applied from the Petroleum and Explosives Safety Organization, in short PESO, under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry for storage of ethanol being a petroleum class A product under the Petroleum Act 1934, read with the rules. Number 6. NOC from local body or authority. A no objection for setting up the ethanol plant is to be obtained from the local authority like the Gram Panchayat or the respective State Industrial Promotion Corporation. Finally, number 7, under the pre-establishment approvals, there are other miscellaneous approvals like number 1, approval for the water connection, the excise permission exemption because the ethanol in this particular case would be used entirely for fuel blending, sanction of power supply, registration of the entity. This is the standard registration under the Companies Act or the Partnership Act depending upon the form of business. And number 5, registration under other miscellaneous acts like the Shops and Establishment Acts, etc. if applicable. With this, we are done with the pre-establishment approvals and we move to part B of the video, which is post-establishment approvals. Number 1, under the post-establishment approvals is the registration under the Boilers Act. If your plant has a captive power plant and consequently a boiler, you need to apply for registration under the Boilers Act from the Boiler Inspectorate. Number 2, factory license cum completion. In continuation of the factory plan approval which you obtained as part of the pre-establishment, the license needs to be applied 15 days before starting manufacturing with a list of stipulated documents. This license is issued within a stipulated timeline of 30 days. Number 3, consent to operate from the State Pollution Control Board. In continuation of the consent to establish which you obtained earlier, the consent to operate needs to be obtained for the permitted capacities under the Central Air and Water Pollution Control Acts. Number 4, PESO final approval. This is in continuation of the initial approval obtained for storage and handling of ethanol, which meets the specifications of a petroleum class A product. Lastly, other operational registrations like labor laws for operations under the EPF, Bonus, Gratuity Act, etc. and registration under taxation laws like GST, income tax, etc. needs to be obtained. I hope the above guide will help you in setting up your ethanol plant and getting the statutory approvals in place. Please subscribe to this channel to regularly get more such content, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you.